Hello and welcome to H2UB. Welcome to our second deep dive into the hydrogen economy. My name is Uwe Kerkmann and I'm the CEO of the H2UB, a project aiming to strengthen the innovative power of the European hydrogen economy for a climate-friendly and defossilized and decarbonized future. Our major target is to support startups in the hydrogen economy to bring their ideas into the market, to get the right connections to companies, to big corporates, not only in Germany, but in Europe. The market of hydrogen is dominated at the moment by big business. And most of all, the discussion about hydrogen is dominated by the times of war we are facing at the moment in Europe. I never imagined that I in my lifetime would say we are in a time of war, but the war in Ukraine really has a big impact on the discussion of where the necessary energy for the German economy, for heating, for manufacturing is coming from, how to diversify the energy markets, how to make sure that we have enough energy and enough supply for things, for keeping things running in Germany. So we are deep into a discussion how the energy market and how the transformation of industry will be possible. It's a great thing that today in our second deep dive, we are just talking about the right thing, that is to combine brilliantly planned pilot projects, singular projects in the hydrogen economy into bigger networks, into an even broader perspective for a European or global network. So this will be our topic for today, how to make a hydrogen network visible and usable for startups and companies in Europe. And I'm very glad that I'm joined in this effort to discuss the topic by three companies, by three partners of the H2UB, which will be joining me in the discussion. And I'm excited to introduce those guests. And here they are. Welcome and good morning to our partners in this discussion. I'll start with Duygu Yavuzova from Unipa, a partner of H2UB. Welcome. And next, Frank and Martijn from CGI. Welcome also to you. And last but not least, Niels from our founding father organization, OGE. Also welcome to you and thanks for joining our discussion today. And I'd like to start with a short self-introductory round, maybe clockwise. As I see you, you can start to introduce yourself to the audience and maybe give a few sentences of what you are doing and what you are contributing today. Duygu, may you start? That's good.
Of course, that's what gentlemen always do. They give the starter to the lady in the round. So that's me, Duygu. Nice to meet you all. Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Duygu. I'm here today representing site development, or as we call it, master planning from Unipa in the West. I'm responsible for the site development of our sites in Gelsenkirchen-Scheuven, and most of you probably have heard of the asset Datteln. So also for that site development there. What am I bringing today? I'm bringing some enthusiasm that we can make the change, and I'm bringing forward a project that is very close to my heart that shall enable different industries and branches to do their piloting on an industrial scale on their way to hydrogen decarbonization, and at the same time train their people, which is most important as well.
Thank you.
Shall I pick over?
Next.
Yeah. My name is Martijn Frins. I'm working for CGI. Typically, my role is a business architect. I've been looking in hydrogen now for a little bit over a year, and our focus is really to look at the digitization part of the hydrogen economy. CGI We have quite a long history in the energy market, and we see a lot of things we can learn from there, and we can use in the hydrogen economy to accelerate it. I think that's enough for now.
Thank you.
Okay, so I continue. Frank Sendt, my name, also from CGI, 4 years now working for CGI in emerging technologies, doing business development. And as Martijn, also very active in the hydrogen area for a year now, but also within our Unicorn Academy, helping startups to grow.
Yes, and I will go on. My name is Nils Kretschmer. I'm head of sales and service management at OGE. We are the biggest transmission system operator in Germany and develop different hydrogen projects and different hydrogen applications. And today I want to show you the H2 Connect app, which is there for the connection of different producers and consumers inside the market.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself. We are really looking forward to your presentations and to a final round of panel discussion. I think, as I've stated before, we are in very interesting times. We have different views on the energy and hydrogen market than 6 weeks ago. So it's really important to talk about how can the necessary ramp up of the hydrogen market really work, what necessary tools do we need, and what steps do we have to make. And I think we have assembled today a few very interesting projects. With your project, you are going to introduce that mark really different steps, all in the same direction, I would say, but it's interesting to see how the things are connected. So thank you very much, and we see each other in this round for a panel discussion. And now I would like to give the floor to Frank and Martin. You stated already that CGI, although being a digital company, is deep into the energy and hydrogen market for quite a long time. And therefore, we are very glad that CGI also is a very big supporting member of the H2 activities. And today, I would like to invite you to talk about your experiences in the H2 ecosystem. And I would say it's a good idea to have a kind of setting the scene by you two. I'm really looking forward to the presentation called H2 Ecosystem, Think Big and Start Small. I think this is really necessary. I think we can agree we started at all, and now we have to think about and plan the next steps we are going to make. So Martin and Frank, the virtual floor is yours. We are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. So I'll kick off. Frank will take over later. I would first like to bring you a little bit into the atmosphere of hydrogen. I think it's important to look first. Why are we actually talking about it? Most of you know, but I think it's good to start with it. As Europe, we have this ambition, this goal to be climate neutral when it's 2050. And if I look at myself, I don't even know what I'm going to do this weekend. So 2050 is so far away. It always seems that I can make it, but it is. So it might not look that urgent, but it is actually very urgent. We need to really start acting because it has major changes, major impact on a lot of sectors, on the energy sector, on industry, on mobility. All of these will be impacted substantially when it's before it's 2050. But because it's so far away, we all think that we can make it. So let's look at an intermediate step. And that's the 2030 step. Many of you heard the Fit for 55 phrase. Sounded confusing in the beginning because I didn't know what the 55 actually meant, if it was 2055 or an age or whatever. But it really is focused on reducing 55% of our CO2 or emissions when it's 2030, and that's a very broad set of policies that we have in place to make sure that we are on the right path to make that to reach that target of being climate neutral in 2050. So it has also the 2030 goals. They're much more concrete. We see 40% renewables. We see a reduction in energy. We see a very high focus on not only renewables but electrification in a lot of sectors, and that's something that we really need to start working on. And that's even besides the very complicated situation that we have in the eastern part of Europe with the war in Ukraine. And to reach those 2030 goals, we feel that hydrogen will play a really vital role in the decarbonization, because not all the sectors will have the ability to use electricity. Here in this slide, you can see the Hydrogen Europe overview. It's I think it's a year or two old, where we have an overview of which low carbon hydrogen alternatives and applications do we see in all these markets, and on which point is there a commercial application for it. So the start of a line is a commercial application, and then you see those triangles that show when such an application has a 1% market share. That's good that we can zoom in a little bit. That's perfect. So you see the darker ones, and the darker ones they are the ambitious scenario. If we really want to go for it, if we really want to align our policies and our investments and to really decarbonize. And if we don't do that, is the assumption that we end up in those light triangles at the back. And if you look around what's happening now, it really seems that we're going more for that ambitious scenario, and that's a very good thing. But what this slide also shows is that the maturity per alternative and per sector really differs. So it's not that within 5 years, all of these sectors are going to switch to hydrogen. And well, I think this is the first time that we do a deep dive in English, so I would like to give you also a little bit of insight in how in the Netherlands how we look at that. And in the Netherlands we have mapped this to help us make decisions on which priorities should we now set for hydrogen. So here again you see those same market segments, and you see the essential applications. And the more that you move down the ladder, the less likely it is that hydrogen is the right alternative, because there are most likely other alternatives that are there. And mind you, this is the case for the Netherlands. It might completely be different for other countries. But what we see here is that really in the Netherlands, the focus will be first on industry. We need to, if we want to decarbonize our steel industry, hydrogen is the way forward. If our process industry, if we need high temperature heat and we cannot use gas, hydrogen is the way forward there. And then if we look at all the renewable energy that we're currently being implemented, and I think if I look out of the window here, probably I can see a van of a company installing solar panels on the roof again. It means that, well, hydrogen is seen as one of the great ways to store and buffer energy, like seasonal storage for the long term. Afterwards, it becomes a little bit more complicated. Mobility, there are some mobility cases where hydrogen will be relevant, but mainly the focus there will be electrification, similar to the heating of our houses. We have a quite extensive gas grid, so we heat our houses a lot with natural gas. The aim in the Netherlands is go for electricity, go for heat pumps in your house, and or maybe a regional heat grid. And there are only some niche markets, some small parts where hydrogen is actually the best way forward. So focus in the Netherlands, industry, energy storage, and then some mobility and heat use cases that we see there. But again, this is ambition. So the question is, how do we really get there? Here a little bit of a timeline. We see currently a lot of pilot projects, small pilots, sometimes regionally grouped, and those regionally grouped initiatives, they become really interesting, because in fact that's like a small local economy that we create there. The goal in the Netherlands is by 2025 that we have 500 megawatts of capacity, and that should grow in the 5 years afterwards to around 3-4 gigawatts when it's 2030. And when we actually start moving from 2025 to 2030, we want to grow. We want to connect all those smaller ecosystems. So we want to move from those smaller regional initiatives where we can really try and fail and try again and fail and try again to make it work, to move then towards a fully integrated hydrogen economy. And a fully integrated hydrogen economy needs a lot of renewable energy, of course. When we start moving towards that, what we really need is a connected system. So we really need a backbone that connects all those hydrogen initiatives, and that shouldn't be done only in the Netherlands. The goal is to do that all over Europe. So we have all the gas TSOs, well, practically all the gas TSOs, and the group keeps growing. It's quite recently, the last few days, it has grown even to 31 European TSOs. They made a joint plan how to reuse their assets that they have in the ground to transport not natural gas, but to start using it for hydrogen, with the ambition by 2030 to connect all those hydrogen valleys, and then grow to 2040, 2050 to have a pan-European network. The great thing here is that we feel that we can do that with over 60-70% of existing assets. And of course, you can take it with a grain of salt, because it's a gas TSO saying that it's important to have a gas transmission system. But if we really want to create a European market and make the best out of this decarbonization, then this is, in my view and our view, a very important part to move forward, and essential because otherwise we will continue to have this chicken and egg problem of should you first have the producers or should you first have the gas infrastructure. Also, Europe is looking at this. The EU Commission, they created a proposal where they also see, well, it is essential that we have this international dedicated hydrogen infrastructure. They see a need to have an organization of joint TSOs to maintain this. And what is also a very interesting part where we take it from the utility market, we should have a clear separation between companies that own this infrastructure and transport the energy, and companies that actually produce the hydrogen and consume the hydrogen. So so you're either an infrastructure company or you're a company that acts on the commercial side of the market. So this is looking at that infrastructure part. The next part is what Europe wants to do is, well, per country, it's important to not only look at hydrogen or only electricity or only heat, but it becomes more and more integrated. So we need these joint plans where you look at all the scenarios of how can we move forward? What's the best mix for the problem? What you need to solve in these areas. And if we really want to move forward, we need to make sure that we have a clear way of certification of those low carbon gases, to have lower tariffs, and to make sure that all the consumers have all the freedom of choice. I think it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to to look at what policymakers are going to do and to see how we can benefit from that. Frank?
Okay, so thanks, Martijn. I think I have to speed up a little. How do we get from theory to practice now? I guess all of us know these small pilots that are existing, testing certain areas within the hydrogen ecosystem. But there's also an official EU program, which is called Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. And under that umbrella, there were different initiatives created, 35 worldwide so far, 24 of them in Europe. Here's just a list of a few of them. And these basically, it's a platform for project developers to foster the development of these hydrogen valleys. And as you can see, there are different sizes, volume behind these valleys. There are different markets targeted. Is it industry? Is it households? Or is it green mobility? And there are different maturities. Yeah, some are still in the vision state. Others, like the Heaven project, are already in the implementation phase. And actually, we are engaged with two of those valleys. It's Heaven in North Holland and Highways for Future in Germany. And if we have a deeper look into that, the target of these valleys is really to replicate best practices, to enable the project developer to share common methodologies, to share best practices, but also to raise potential issues within their valleys and try to find resolutions commonly. And from these 35 projects, 3 really got a funding from the EC. Big Hit in UK was the first one. Green Highland in Spain was the last one. And Heaven actually is the biggest one where we are involved. And Heaven is interesting in that sense that it covers the whole value chain from production to consumption. And it is divided into 4 clusters, addressing different areas of hydrogen needs, chemical parks, industry in general, households, and also green mobility. So in that sense, very interesting. And many valleys focus on technology development, but it is also very important that the IT is able to handle the product hydrogen, and that we are also able to make these results visible. And that was our task within the Heaven project, create transparency within the project and make auditable results available. And so how do we do that? We like to talk about market facilitation. And if you look at the whole value chain from production via transport, storage to consumption, the different stakeholders and roles in the ecosystem have a need for functions like asset management. Contracts have to be created. You need to take care about your metering data. You either need to do settlements or balancing or billing of transactions. Very important in the hydrogen area is the certification part. We have different origins of hydrogen, or better known as the different colors. We have different purity of hydrogen. Data analytics becomes more and more important. We have lots of data to be digested. We talk about sector coupling. We need to optimize the production of hydrogen depending on different weather conditions or market forecasts. And last but not least, also, we need to create the dashboards to have the transparency needed. And how does that look like in more detail? Basically, it's a data hub that enables commercial operations. And if we look at the midstream part of the ecosystem, so the transport and the storage area, it is very much about 3 different input variables. It's static data that needs to be handled, like network planning data, asset data. It's contract data, like balancing or ownership of different assets. And it's very important, the dynamic data, of course, the measured value or also denominated values. And all of that has to be digested, and so that we are able to process them and create the reports that are needed. Is it balancing or billing reports? Is it an input for the capacity management, or, and very important, carbon emission reporting, which gets more and more important, also looking towards ESG reporting in general. And there it doesn't matter if we look at the small size hydrogen volume, so the trailer-based, or the big size hydrogen volume, which is pipeline-based. All of them are in need of these kind of commercial operations at the end of the day. And how do we get now to an integrated ecosystem? I would like to finish with a slide from the Wind Meets Gas Symposium in 2021. And Rosalind van der Vlies from the EU, she created her view on this Hydrogen Valley perspective. And I very much like it because it underlines what we need to do. And first of all is we need more of the same. So we need more hydrogen valleys. The target is to get to around about 100 in the next couple of years. And one possibility would actually be to create one valley here in our area, Ruhrgebiet, maybe connected to the Rheinkreis Neuss. There are already talks existing, and we have very good prerequisites here. And actually, even though the fuel cell and hydrogen joint undertaking was ceased last year, there's a new program from the EU, which is called Clean Hydrogen Partnership. And just recently, they announced that they offered 300 million euro, and it's a call for proposal. So maybe it's worthwhile going into that direction. Second, it's about connecting the valleys, and there we are already in talks with Heaven and Highways for Future. And the idea is also to connect to a Danish hydrogen valley because they have lots of green power to offer, and that is what is needed to create the hydrogen. Third, it's about commodity here in that sense. In investments, it needs to be safe to invest into the infrastructure. We need regulation to cover that security. And last but not least, to make a green hydrogen future really possible, we need the awareness. And as Martijn already mentioned, and also Uwe, due to the sad situation in Ukraine, I think the awareness has never been bigger that investing in renewables also means investing in security. So, we need funding, we need regulation, very important. We need innovation and digitization. And I think that is an area where the startups really can bring in their power of innovation. And we need what we are currently doing here. We need networking. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Frank and Martin, for this very important insight into what's happening in the hydrogen economy and hydrogen world in general. And I myself found it very interesting to see how the Netherlands are coping with this. Interesting to see that the emphasis is really on industrial use, on industrial feedstock. Whereas maybe a provocative statement, and we can discuss it later, many German initiatives are focusing on the, from a Dutch perspective, minor field of logistics and transportation. Very interesting to see that. Thank you so much for emphasizing that in order to scale up, we need to combine activities, we need to connect not only single initiatives, but to connect European networks into a really big European network. And I think we have a lot to discuss in our discussion round. Thanks for this moment, for the setting the scene statement, and give us some insights of what CGI is doing. And thank you a lot for the final statement that although we are driven at the moment by the big picture of securing energy in general and how independency can be secured, that it is nevertheless important to integrate innovative things into the hydrogen economy and to integrate startup ideas and their impulses in order not to leave the path for a hydrogen future. So thank you very much. And I'd like to switch to the next guest. And welcome again, Duigu. And I'm really curious what bridge you might build now to your project. I very much like your title, your title, Head of Masterplan Ruhr, which is quite a statement, because when we are talking about hydrogen, talking about industry, talking about energy, then of course the Ruhr area is one of the most exciting and future-oriented industrial areas in not only in Germany but in Europe. Having a great tradition in energy and a great tradition in industry, and therefore playing a major role in the transformation of the energy market and energy business, and of course, transformation of the industry. You're here today to introduce a great project of yours, which I like very much, because it also integrates the thought of scaling up activities in the hydrogen market. And I'm happy to give you the floor and to introduce the Hydrogen Industrial Research and Training Center in Scholven. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for the nice and kind words as well, Uwe. Let me see how I can actually make a small bridge. First of all, let me show you this beautiful site that I'm showing you. It's a picture that was taken from a balloon at dawn. I like it very much because it shows you exactly what Uwe just pointed out to. It's a super industrial area. In the front of the picture, you see the actual coal site at the moment, which is being converted to a natural gas site and eventually into a hydrogen site, I hope. And in the background, you see some chemical industry that is surrounding actually the coal power station site at the moment. So let's continue, and I'll give you a small insight into what Uniper is, because a lot of people still don't know Uniper. It was founded in 2016 as the so-called bad bank of E.ON. I believe Uniper has very much matured from that and has now all kinds of different activities also in the renewables business, also making some very serious steps in the hydrogen industry, in my opinion. So just some facts and figures around Uniper that I really don't want to cite here, because I believe all of you can read all of that here. But let me tell you one thing. Hydrogen is actually nothing really new to Uniper. Uniper has been active in the hydrogen business since 2013, very actively. So Uniper hasn't been only speaking about what hydrogen is about, but we have been actually operating hydrogen assets ever since 2013. What kind of assets? Let's check on the next slide. This shows you a bit of our project pipeline and projects that have already been in place, let's say. We have an asset in Hamburg, which is a power to gas asset, which we are operating. We have an asset in Falkenhagen, which is an electrolysis that we are operating. And you see some other international projects that are in idea phase or in design phase. You see some of them have quite large numbers next to them. And we're really looking forward to bringing our projects from pilot plans to the real market maturity. And that is actually a very good introductory point for my next slide, because I believe you need to have the right sites to do this. So you need to have your sites to really find where you're bringing your pilots from the university and academic scale towards an industrial pilot, and then to scale it up and make it your large solutions to decarbonize. Why do I believe Uniper's site of Gelsenkirchen-Scholven is ideal for that? I believe it is one of the very few sites in whole of Europe that has the potential to connect to two independent hydrogen pipelines within the next couple of years. One of those pipelines is already existent, and the other is the large project, infrastructure project that you all know of probably. It's the Get H2 nucleus pipeline, which is landing at this chemical site, which is very close to the power station, and can be connected via a pipeline of less than 3 kilometers. So something very reachable, something very doable to connect this site with hydrogen flows, which is very important if you want to come from this scale from universities towards your industrial piloting. You do need a place where you have the possibility to connect to hydrogen and to embed your products into an existing energy environment. So here's a picture for you, which I didn't bring from, I did forget that I put all of these points next to the slide. Sorry about that. So some more arguments why the site is actually great that I'm talking about. So we have some brownfield as well. So next to being able to connect to the pipelines, we actually have space, which isn't a given in the rural area, actually, in an industrially designated area. Very important, actually. So let's go on. I did bring you a picture, which is not from my last vacation. It is actually a picture that explains very well what the high RTC wants to contribute. It is very similar to a camping site, actually. You come with your recreational vehicle, your camper, and you want to have connections to fresh water, you want to get away with your dirty water, you want to have your power connection, and you just want to enjoy yourself. And maybe you want to have a host that can lend you a hammer, or they can give you a hand if something is broken on your camper. And that is actually what we want to contribute in the high RTC. We want to enable the connection of industrial pilots into a full energy system. And us as Uniper are, I believe, experts in the whole field of industrialization. So we know how to engineer, we know how to give a hand and support you in looking what is wrong with your asset. So those are additional services that we could offer with the high RTC. And with the analogy of the camping side, I tried to explain the one side of the high RTC, the research area. We believe that we urgently need a place where we can mature our technologies to be H2 ready. We need those places where we can go with our technology readiness levels of 5 and above, where you really need that continuous flow of hydrogen and not the small scale volumes, but you actually need, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 megawatts of hydrogen on your appliance. And this is what we can give you because we have that continuous pipeline. And because hydrogen is so precious actually at the moment still, we want to ensure that the maximum usage of that fuel is reached by embedding it into that energy system. So we made ourselves some thoughts and tried to come up with, so what would be the potential areas that people want to research? And we started our talks with companies that we know are also ready to step towards this H2 readiness journey, and asked, so what do you actually want to research if you had that chance, if you had the site, if you had that hydrogen connection? And these are the points that we came up with. So some thoughts around material compatibility, the gas qualities that you can actually put your appliance on. Of course, topics around storage, as you know, hydrogen has a different density. So how fast can you store in? How fast can you store out? What's the flows that you're causing? Also, how is maybe a connection to be done towards synthetic fuels? And in the end, how can you do certifications of your H2 ready appliances? Those are all questions that we heard of, and this is not an excessive list. So there is still topics missing, and what is very important is that the HIRTC, the Hydrogen Industry Research and Training Center, is open to all. So it's not only the energy business that we're looking into, it's all kinds of appliances that want to retrofit from natural gas towards hydrogen. So we're only looking at those applications where you need the fuel, more or less, to function. What the HIRTC is offering, I tried to already describe, so I believe let's not double do that, because time is flying when you're having fun and talking about something that is so dear to your heart. But once your appliance is H2 ready, you can't actually run it unless you have the people who can. And that's why we believe it is so utterly important to connect the research part of the HIRTC with the training. So we want to make sure that the research and the training are very closely connected, that the training is hands-on, on the job. And here we're collaborating with some very known and very standardized, or making standardization possible, partners. We have the IHK, we have the DVGW, and we have the Kraftwerkschule, who are very known for their teaching abilities in new fields as well. So we are here supporting with our know-how from already operating hydrogen assets in the past, and collaborating with these partners to find a very good way to train people, not only our own, but also, again, open to the industry. And the training is purely aimed at people who have a apprentice career. So let's say you have the apprentice title of an electromechanic, and the next job that you are facing is you have to run an electrolyzer. So how are you going to do that? You have never worked with hydrogen, and this training, which is approximately 6 months of theoretic training, interlinked with 3 months of practical training, will enable your electromechanic to become certified in working with hydrogen and enabling them to work with hydrogen. So we believe that this combination is great and is exactly what is needed at the moment. But again, this is a very different project, and therefore we're hoping very much that it will receive some attention from funding schemes and will get the support to actually go live. So we are at the moment looking for partners that would be interested in working together with us in the development of the HIRTC, both on the research side and the training side. So if you're interested, come join us. It's not aimed purely at large companies. In contrary, this is something where small, medium-sized enterprises and also startups are very, very welcome to come and realize their research topic or their training need together with us. The more the merrier, and the more the louder, and the more attention we get actually also from those funding bodies. And if you want to know where to reach me, here's my contact details, and I'm sure if you're not pinning in that, Uwe would also probably be happy to build that contact towards us as well. I'm very happy to have had this chance to quickly introduce this project that I believe will make a huge step towards decarbonization in the industry. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dugu, for introducing a project that is obviously quite next to your heart. It was really good to see and to experience that you're very much into this topic. Of course, we give the contact details of all our speakers and partners in the notes when we publish this session at YouTube. So thank you very much for giving us this insight. I think you built a perfect bridge to another part where things have to be connected. And I very much like the idea of connecting research and training, because when the hydrogen economy wants to be successful, we need more speed and we need more projects to happen. And therefore, it's a great idea, not only for startups, but for startups and research teams and also small and medium-sized companies to really get live with their idea, to really have an environment, be it a camping site or not. I also like that metaphor very much. But to have an environment where you can make that happen, where you can just work with hydrogen, work with the infrastructure you need. So I think this is an important idea, to connect ideas and the realization of ideas, and to enable an industrial use of many interesting ideas of the hydrogen business. So thank you very much. And I can guarantee you we will integrate this project into our communication, because I think it would be worth everything to find partners to make it happen, because this is really what we need. As you stated, Uniper itself is working with hydrogen for almost 10 years, and the whole hydrogen economy is not really a new one. So what we really need now is to make ideas into projects, to connect those projects to get the broader picture. So thank you very much for the introduction of your trailer park. And now I'm happy to introduce the last speaker, which is Niels Kretschmer from Open Grid Europe, from OGE. Hi, Niels. And you also will present an interesting project of how in the hydrogen economy, production, demand, decentralized information can be put on a very interesting networking platform and idea, and benefit the hydrogen economy. So Niels, I'm looking forward to your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Uwe, for the introduction. My name is Niels Kretschmer. I'm the head of sales and service management at OGE, and I want to start with a small video regarding our H2 Connect app. It's in German, but I hope it's running now. I will translate the main part. Currently, it's not running. No. Okay, the first video doesn't work now. Can the host support me, please? Yes, here's a small introduction of the Hydrogen H2 Connect app. We have got different possibilities in the app to show projects, producers, consumers, jointly greens and filling stations. You have got the possibility to join the app by putting your own data and figures inside the application. You have got the possibility that you were seen as project inside the market in our map, and to show yourself and your project what you are doing. So we see as that the connection also is very important. So at the end, OGE is an infrastructure transmission system operator, and we want to connect the projects regarding our infrastructure and be an active part in the transformation of the hydrogen connection projects. So short video that you get an overview how it works, some facts and figures and features the H2 Connect app has. So we want to support the ecosystem and the infrastructure side of the hydrogen network. So you have got a free, cost-free application where you have got accessibility and usability. It's quite easy. We show the ecosystems, we are linking to the projects, participating companies and existing plants. And with the application, we want to have got transparency regarding the hydrogen market. Then you can additionally see the progress of the market. And we want a cross-platform for application that everybody can take part in and everybody can see what's going on inside the market. It's quite easy to log in. You can do private projects if you say, okay, some data of that should not be shown. We have integrated the European hydrogen backbone, which was already mentioned before. So you can switch with a timeline till 2045, how the development of the transmission system will go on. We are still developing, so we're hoping to have got in future matchmaking platform so that you can partner matching in your area and connect to the other parties. We want to implement an automatic notifications for the players, and we want to extend more in Europe and have more data on the platform that it will continuously grow. So here you see an overview. We still have got 118 projects, 219 companies, and 421 assets with production, with consumption, with filling stations. On the left side, you see one project, ThyssenKrupp Steel Europe, which is located in Duisburg. There's a small description of the project, connected project, and the assets which are connected by the project. We want to develop the network. We want to support the market ramp up. We want to have got a transparency regarding the market and the matchmaking at the end, that the people don't do all their own projects, so that it will be an integrated hydrogen world. We have got now the third version of the application installed, and we are still ongoing. Beginning of May, we are doing the next updates on the application. We want to have got an overview that you can see here as example. So we want to support with some applications, calculators, commodity things regarding what data are all in, how much production each country and each region is there, so that you can get an overview regarding your region and regarding your country and regarding the projects which are in the platform. So now I will switch to my screen that you get a live view of the application. On our landing page, you see that the application is available on the app stores, so you can download it in Google and Apple Store. You have got a web application form, and you can check the video which I showed you on the beginning about search, connections, transformation, so that you know what it's about. And we have got the application here, where you can choose different things. You can set the language, you can have got informations what it's about. You can log in. So login is with social media accounts possible. You have got the possibility to have got different layer inside the map. You can show the infrastructure of the European hydrogen backbone. You can check facilities, stations, productions, and applications. You can check companies inside different branches, and you have got the possibility to search, and that it's working. I will show you the project we saw on the beginning. You see here ThyssenKrupp in Duisburg, a description, a link to the company. It's linked to involved projects, involved facilities, and you can switch directly to the involved companies. So that was a small side up of the application as a live view on the app. We're still working all the time on data, on development, and are happy that more and more people are joining us and coming to the platform, and you're invited with your projects to join our platform. So what we additionally developing is that we have got smaller white label cooperations with some partner. So if you have got a project inside an area, we additionally want to support you with a local ecosystem so that you can collect your data with your customer contacts and develop smaller applications, because at the end, it's important to support the market, and we are searching for partners who want to develop inside the region their ecosystem. What you don't see currently is that there's much more than the front end. So we have got a back end platform where much more data insights, like purification, like quantities each year on production, which type of production, and different information on the back end, so that it's easier to go through it. And the front end is for showing the market what's going on. OGE is therefore the platform provider, doing the technical development and giving you the application support. So far, if you are interested to cooperate with us, please do not hesitate to contact me. That's how it can look like. So we said, okay, here's the H2 Connect app. We put a layer up like local ecosystem Munich. And if you're interested that your local ecosystem will show on your page and in your company, yes, just give me a hint. My contact details will be available. Additionally to our Hydrogen Connect app, we have got different services we are offering to the market. Very famous is the high school coaching and development for people. You can join. We have got 3 more courses that year. I showed you the H2 Connect app, which is a free platform for our partners. We have got knowledge transfer in form of a Road to H2, where we share our hydrogen knowledge to the market, and we have got some very interesting technical projects. One of those is the H2 suite. So if you have got a network or a grid and you want to check the suitability, we are doing that as a cooperation partner of you. We are doing this with an artificial intelligence, and you can transform your grid system that it's suitable for hydrogen. We are building and constructing additional things like a purification unit. We're doing tests like for valves and turbines. So one very interesting thing is that we, at the end of this year, have got on a turbine on the Czech border a hydrogen test, how it acts with hydrogen. And we, as transmission operator, offering services like construction and operation of pipeline for third parties. So very thanks to all people who have joined, and I hope it was an interesting view how the connection of digitalization and physical projects can be done in an innovative character.
Thank you very much, Niels, for this presentation and for the insight how a big company like OGE is kind of acting like a startup and working on a platform that is really an interesting tool for all those who want to have more clarity about what's going on in the hydrogen business. I think this is really important, and a really important thing. We can just emphasize that many partners should use these kind of tools to make it more visible where hydrogen projects are located, where a demand is clustering, where the support should come from. So thank you very much for that. And we'll come back to that, talking about how to develop isolated projects into integrated systems. And I would like to invite all the speakers of today's sessions to join me for a round of panel discussion. Here they are again. Thank you. And I would like to kind of sum up your presentations or find a baseline to that. I think what's what all the projects have in common is their approach to identify single projects, to connect single projects in order to form an infrastructure, to get knowledge about the interlink between demand and supply, and of course to get a regional network that is really necessary when we are talking about a hydrogen economy that is, of course, not only regional, but has to be European, and finally, of course, has to be global, because we all know that a lot of hydrogen that we'll need in the future will not be produced in Germany or Europe, but elsewhere, so transport is also a big issue. We have seen that there are many things are going on in the hydrogen economy world. Many big companies are invested or active in hydrogen. Niels mentioned ThyssenKrupp, which is an outstanding example, of course, here in North Rhine-Westphalia, producing green steel by using hydrogen instead of coke. And this is also not a very new project. They are working on it for 3 years now, I think. And we have a lot of things that are going on either by big business, by corporates, and also, of course, by many startups who would like to bring forward the hydrogen economy. And so we see that from a very practical approach of getting more information by using the app, of an approach, having a site, which was very important to you when you said that you need space for this kind of business. It's not only that, like in the digital world, you need your laptop and your sofa or a nice co-working space. You need really a site and an industrial site for these kind of things, which I think is really important. And building a bridge to the CGI presentation in your project, and to connect these sites, to connect these production sites and these sites where real hydrogen business is happening. This is the approach as I see it from at first the singular hydrogen valleys, and then of course to a network of hydrogen valleys to really make hydrogen into a commodity. At the moment, I would say it's, in most of the cases, it's still a project, and we need to find out how we can make it into a commodity that is really driven by market conditions. So I would like to start with a question to Frank and Martijn. You mentioned that CGI is working with 2 Hydrogen Valley projects already. You have deep experience in the Netherlands with Heaven, which I think is a great name for such a project. And of course, you mentioned that there's the option for more hydrogen valleys in Europe and even in Germany. So what would be the ideal hydrogen valley in Germany? Is it a regional one? Is it a bigger one? What would you say, what one could learn from existing hydrogen valleys? How can we make the most use of a hydrogen valley in our region or in our country?
Yeah, I think Heaven is a good example, as it's really building the whole value chain from production to consumption, has already different clusters to address these different needs. And I think the same we could do here in our area. So if we look at Ruhrgebiet and Rheinisches Revier, that would be an ideal place. We have the research institutions, we have lots of industry, we have chemical parks, we have the port in Duisburg. And if we combine all of that, I think we also have a good chance to go for this call for proposals from the EU, where we can get funding, because that is important right now as well. And from that point of view, I would really see that we have a good chance here, and then we could connect to the other existing projects like Get H2 from OGE, like H2 North, which is a project coming from Netherlands and trying also to connect already to Germany. So also fostering the interconnection between the valleys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an interesting and very necessary point, because today we mentioned the war and the upcoming energy crisis maybe already. It's really important to see where all this should lead to, and that the hydrogen market is not a niche market. in the future at least, but will be a big thing we should address, although we might have more pressing problems or challenges at the moment. I'd like to switch to Duigu. Making a broader approach, you're from Uniper, and you said that it's very important in order to make hydrogen projects happen, be it from startups, being from small and medium-sized companies. You need the infrastructure. And Scholven, as you presented it, is connected to a working infrastructure. What would you say are the perspectives for a broader approach? Like, it's a great idea to have one site where research and training and maybe even manufacturing can be realized. What would be, from your perspective, the bigger picture we should approach in order to scale up the hydrogen market?
In my opinion, actually, these kind of sites where you can start piloting are the foundation. So you need the technological maturity, in my opinion. So once you have your appliance ready to go for hydrogen, you increase the demand for hydrogen and you increase, let's say, also the possibilities in buying hydrogen, because with rising demand, probably the supply will also rise. And as supply rises, hydrogen may become also something that is tradable, that is also payable. And the more you do things to rise in the demand, I believe you will also reach in those corners where you don't have those distribution grids for hydrogen yet, and they will go there in the end. I do believe it is going to be the new natural gas. So you will find the pipelines and you will reach the areas that are not connected to hydrogen at the moment with hydrogen connection once you ready your technology.
I think this is very interesting. You mentioned the hen and egg problem. Where do we need the hydrogen, in which industry, for which use case, and where does it come from? Where's the supply? Niels, maybe a question to you, since you're working for the biggest transmission company for natural gas at the moment. Do you need these kind of tools? You explained the H2 Connect app. Do you take these kind of tools in order to get an even more a bigger picture or better picture, a basis for decisions where future infrastructure should be built? Is this a point for you?
Yes, that's always a point, that we know where and in which locations what's going on. So H2 Connect is a support thing for us, but it's just an online platform. So far, it has to be development or much more development necessary that you have got it as a real planning tool. So currently, it's more a showcase that you see every project in Germany and Europe, but we see us as a connector. So we are building the bridges between the producers and the consumers with our grid system. So some projects from us were mentioned already. So we will build up Get H2 Nucleus. We want to connect the Scholven area with our grid system to transport the hydrogen, which was named as the new natural gas. And we want to transport that where it's necessary. And for that, H2 Connect is a starting point. But at the end, we need more clear view about the project. So far, discussions and contracts are necessary.
Yeah, thank you very much for this insight. I think it's really important to talk about the process, not only to connect pilot projects to bigger networks, but also to make clear that the scaling up of singular projects may lead to a bigger demand and may lead to a better decision where to have the future infrastructure. So Martin, I would like to switch to you. We are talking about hardware and pipeline infrastructure, but there's more to it, I think, especially from your perspective. What do we need other than hardware, other than pipeline infrastructure, to accelerate the process of growing the hydrogen economy? Is there more than hardware?
I think it's much more than just hardware. Well, if you look at just just a pilot project, typically we see currently that the focus is a lot on the asset part, on keeping it safe, on gaining experience, on how do we run electrolyzers at the best, in the best way, and how do we transport it. And if you want to scale, you leave this project phase and you go first of all to a very operational phase. And when you're in that project phase, you can do a lot with Excel to make sure that you track the volumes and maintain the parties that are involved. If you really want to scale, one of the important aspects is that we focus more on the digitization aspect, because, well, if you really scale, you can't do it with Excel anymore. You need a way to capture all the data, to involve all the parties, to be completely transparent, and to really build this into your IT landscape as already one aspect.
Let me just ask you, out of curiosity, do all the partners want to be integrated? Is this maybe a challenge or a to-do for future projects? Because we always talk about it's necessary to connect and to build a network. And maybe a question to all of you: do you experience a great need of all the partners to be integrated, or is it a question of persuasion, and do you have to explain what you're doing? How is the reaction of the partners really dealing with these kind of things?
I can't speak for all the partners, I think, but I think most of them, they see this dot on the horizon that's the way forward, and that the pilots are the way to gain experience and slowly build on that.
I see.
Yeah, what we see in, for example, just to add, the projects in Heaven and in North Germany, EWE has with Highways for Future. You see that the partners are willing to cooperate, but I think it's really missing that there is a platform to exchange information and to connect. Yeah, so this is a part that is very likely to be forgotten because it's very much about technology. Yeah, so I think the corporates have to think more about IT and how to do the commercial business at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. And how you see that? I mean, you're also making an offer to partners from the hydrogen economy, and do you see there's response to these kind of offers?
Definitely. The point, though, is that at the moment, everybody who is dealing with these things is doing it because they believe that there is this market coming and there's a need for this change. It's not commercial. And any company that wants to survive needs to have a commercial, viable way of dealing with things. So what we're actually needing is much faster decision making on any kinds of funding schemes or support schemes whatsoever. That is actually something that not only us as, let's say, infrastructure giver need, but anybody who wants to use hydrogen needs on the short term. Eventually, I'm pretty sure it's going to be commercially viable, but for the short and midterm, you do need the support to make the change.
Yeah, I totally agree. And coming back to the initial statement now, like energy markets and global markets are really in uproar because everybody is seeking for a perfect solution for their own region and country. And you also mentioned that hydrogen needs to become a commercial market. And I'd like to ask all of you the question, when we see that scaling up is really a big thing, and we need enough supply of green hydrogen in the future in order to make all that happen. What you mentioned in your projects, or what was mentioned in the initial statement of Martin and Frank, how do your projects contribute to this thing? I mean, how is it important to work with the hydrogen valleys in order to really form a bigger market for hydrogen in the future? Maybe Frank and Martin can start, because they had one slide view on how this might look.
Yeah, I think as Europe we have a great opportunity. Right? It's currently a little bit of a blank sheet of paper how this market is going to be organized, and that means in all those hydrogen pilots, we also don't know what the roles and responsibilities really will be. We don't know how the process will be, let alone that we don't know what standardized information exchanges will look like. If you would take a parallel for the electricity market, we have some form of standardization, but there is still a large degree of freedom between all the countries on how the processes and how everything is structured. And this, with hydrogen, we actually have the possibility of creating one European blueprint and making it much easier for parties to be active in multiple countries and to trade across borders and to have more standardization or responsibilities and interfaces and information exchange. So I think that one of the challenges is then, if you are now a hydrogen valley or a small project, how do you approach that? How do you approach that then? And well, there are many answers and many complicated aspects to this. From an IT perspective, I think you really want to be flexible. You want to have the flexibility to try and to change and to see which concepts work, and then share all that knowledge across the rest and start influencing.
Yeah, I think this point is quite interesting. But on the other side, when you mentioned, at least from the Dutch perspective, like industrial use and industry feedstock is an important point. Sometimes you get the impression that focusing on the industry doesn't necessarily come with flexibility, because they need a very long time to like design their planning processes. They need stability, security, regulation, clarity for their investment decisions. So I think this is an important issue we should also focus. Sometimes it's easier, I would say, to focus on smaller projects because it's more handy to talk about it. It's more like the solution is a little bit more, I don't know, maybe realistic. But when it comes to the big scale use of hydrogen in industry, then of course you need other dimensions of planning scenarios and time for planning. I think, Niels, this also goes, of course, for the pipeline infrastructure. If a new pipeline, a new infrastructure is needed, you need a basis for a decision-making process that it's taking several years. And how do you see, do you already have the base for decisions for the future, or is it still a kind of testing atmosphere?
I think, first of all, you have to go a little bit to the past, because we already have got a big infrastructure projects for the market area change from L to H gas. So we built up the Z-Link pipeline through the Ruhr area, that the gas can be changed from the Groningen field to the H gas resources. And now you see the development regarding Russia and Ukraine, and you see a new infrastructure project regarding FSRU units, so that you import LNG from the market. And the next steps are coming. So it's getting faster and faster in the development of the areas. And so far, for me, the hydrogen projects are reality already, like get H2 Nucleus, like Hercules with RWE. And the Uniper project, you see, they don't talking anymore, they are doing. And so far, the infrastructure has to be developed in the same step, because otherwise you can't do large-scale projects. So from the first small things, it's growing faster, And we are happy to support the market with our infrastructure. We are happy about CGI, which are supporting that with small projects that you can platform, that you can balancing, that you can trading. And we are happy about Uniper, who are doing training centers. At the end, it must be connected together. And that's the reason also why we founded the hub. We want to develop the hydrogen world as a carbon emission-free market.
So thank you. It's great to see that already the 4 of you or the 5 of us are already a working network, because you are in contact and working on several things. It's great to see. But for a final round, let me just talk about the issue of startups. We talked a lot about it's a big scale business. We need a gigawatt hydrogen world. We need like the hydrogen backbone for Europe, which is a big infrastructure topic. And of course, we need big business to drive this. But what about the startup world? We have a lot of interesting ideas of startups, bringing new ideas, bringing new technologies, bringing new projects to the market. Is there room, and where is this room for startups in project like yours? Maybe I start with CGI.
Yeah, actually, we are already in the middle of doing matchmaking, not only here within the Hydrogen Hub, but also with our Unicorn Academy. And we have 3 startups we talk with, and was listening to Duigu's talk about the RTC. So I immediately see that Hydrogonics, for example, with their solution to optimize hydrogen production, could be an ideal contact with you and make use of the RTC and test their solution. With OGE, we are in talks with the H2 Connect and Hydroplace, another startup, which have a matchmaking solution for trailer-based hydrogen. Yeah, so obviously we are coming more from the digitalization area, and we see a lot of opportunity. Certification is another area. It is a very blank field at the moment, and there is Altrolium working in that area, coming from the trading part. So all these different dots come together, and it's a lot of fun bringing these different parties together. And I think startups in that area can really make a difference.
And Duigu, is a startup a clientele for you as well? Is this a target group as well?
Of course, as long as what they're doing is an industrial scale appliance that needs hydrogen and wants to embed the rest of their product into an energy system and make full use of the hydrogen burning, of course, anybody is welcome on the high RTC to realize their step towards technology maturity. It is what we're realizing in the startup world, because it is about financing as well. When you make that step towards piloting in an industrial scale, that's a lot of money that you need. Just imagine the cost for, I don't know, a 200-hour test on the hydrogen.
I see that
you need
point,
to be able to finance that.
Yeah, that's really an important point, and this is why one of our next deep dives will be about financing ideas from hydrogen startups or innovative teams in order to get the chance to go to the market. But another point I think is very important. Funding, as you mentioned, is a limiting factor to many startup ideas, to many hydrogen projects as well, because it's very cost intensive and you need a lot of investment. But another point you mentioned during your presentation is the talent part. In order to support startups, in order to give the opportunity to startups to scale up, they also need talent. And therefore, I like the training part in your project, because this could be a very important thing for all the projects, networking projects, connecting projects, because we need people who are doing their work in the hydrogen business. It's not only about inventing things, but it's about producing things, and scaling up always means you need more men and women power to do this. So I think this is also an important point we should try to focus on. Therefore, I'm convinced that networking does make a lot of sense especially in the hydrogen world, because there's not too much talent around. It's a buyer's market at the moment for companies who are looking for stuff. And I'm convinced that it is important to state that although maybe it's not at the moment a commercially driven market, it will be a very important and necessary market in the future. So it's worth to when you make your decision, whether it's education or studying or practical training or whatever, have the hydrogen market in your mind. I think this is really important. And maybe at last but not least, of course, Niels, I'm sure I don't have to ask you what role startups play in the OGE world, because I know, since OGE was a founding father and the kick-off member of this H2UB supporting startups, that your company is very keen to support startups and very open towards ideas from startups. Do you get a lot of interest from startups in your work, or do you have to find startups to work with?
We've got an own innovation team. Ahmed is currently working for you on the H2UB, and we want to support startups who wants to do real projects with us, and we are supporting them by just in different parts. So giving them a project in our grid system, supporting them with financing issues that they say, okay, let's do something together. We are happy about the companies who are coming and contacting us. But it's currently, you said, it's not so many people. Everybody's searching for new stuffs, and it's in the current situation, everybody's searching for somebody who is doing something. We are happy that you support the startups as well, and that they can grow and that they can cooperate with us.
Yeah, thank you for that statement. And we are doing our best to do so. And maybe this is also a very good opportunity to state that also the H2UB is, of course, hiring. We are searching for talent to support our little team, supporting startups and doing the necessary network work to combine all these very interesting projects we have seen today. And there are many more to come. So we are at the end of our discussion for today. Although it feels like we just started, not only with the discussion, but of course with the hydrogen world, I take the opportunity to thank you very much for your very insightful information about your projects. I think there are very many connection points, not only for startups, but also for startups to get in touch with you, to be part of the different networks and make use of the services and the approaches you make. All of you have the enthusiasm, I think, and I feel that together we can reach a lot more than every single one of us can do alone. So thank you very much for your projects. I hope to see you soon in one of our projects, since all of you are partners of H2UB. I'm convinced we'll continue to work together and continue to work and support, work with and support startups, which we think is a very important point, because innovation is always an important driving force when it comes to building and scaling up new markets. Thank you very much for today's discussion. And as I said, I hope to see you soon.